Hello all and welcome to Crochet Designs. My name is Mary and in today's tutorial we are working on, and I can't fit it in guys, that's about as low as I can go. We are working on our Mystery Poncho for this year, and in actual fact this is part 2 and it is the final part that you will need for your poncho. And all you need to remember to do today is enjoy it, because this is your final part, guys. All right, so what you will need for your poncho, and as you can see there are tassels. Now you don't have to have tassels. I give you an option for you to just do a row of single crochet and that's the end of that. Okay, so if you want to do the single crochet row, by all means just go ahead and do that and then cast off, and that's the end of that. If you want to do tassels, then we will go ahead and do the tassels with me towards the end. All right, what you will need today is lots and lots of yarn. These tassels take up lots of yarn, so bear that in mind when you're doing that. You will need 3 size hooks. You will need a 4mm hook, 4.5 and a 5. The only reason I'm giving you the option for the other 2 hooks that we didn't use, which is a 4 and a 4.5, is if you found the neck edge to be a little too loose for you, you can do that neck edge using a 4mm hook or a 5. All right, you'll need your scissors, definitely. You will need a sewing needle to weave in your ends. You will need your strips of yarn, which I show you how to cut up within the tutorial. And that's about it, guys. I'm not going to talk anymore because once again my tutorials do go for a long time, and so does this one. So I will let you head off and finish your mystery poncho. Good luck all. Alrighty guys, here we have right now 2 of our pieces. Okay, now you're probably noticing the stitch mark. I'll explain that in a minute, but for now what I want you to do is to find the right side of your work. Alright, now the right side of our work is, there's many ways you can tell, but it depends on if you did more rows because you didn't think it was long enough. Okay, so what I might do is show you the original way, which is that's your tail end. Yeah, we chained all the way across here and then we turned and did a double crochet this way. Your first double crochet row is usually always your right side, but because we're going backward and forward, it doesn't really matter in this case, but I'd like to stay in sync. So your left hand tail, the tail should be in your left hand. So on my left hand side I've got my 2 right sides facing, which means I have a right side here and a right side there. Yeah, so what I want you to do is take your top one off and turn it around and face the other one, which means now what you've got is your right side facing your right side. So on the, where we're going to work now is on the wrong side of our work. All right, now that's the first thing you need to do for your work. To get where I am now with these center stitches right here, and I'll just drop my hook, but I'll get that in a minute. To get here, what you will need to do is to grab your piece. Now for me, my stitches across were 101 stitches. Divide that in half, and mine was 51 stitch there and a 51st stitch there and 51st stitch there. All right, so 50 that way and 50 that way, and my little one is right flat bang in the middle of the poncho. Yeah, and that's what I want you to do. Find the center of your piece, whatever numbers you had. Grab one of the stitch markers, pass it in the opposite side, and then you can take that other stitch marker out, and that's the center of your poncho. That's right flat bang in the middle of your neck. All right, now for now, okay, just for now, to find the measurement across here, I just gave an average measurement for a size small, size medium and a size large. All right, when I say large, it's not so much a large, it's more of a taller person, so the shoulders are a little bit wider because they're taller. Okay, so me being like, I'm a little bit wide but I am short and I'm small from there to my shoulders, to the edge of my shoulders, so I had to make sure I worked on the smaller size for me. The larger size everywhere else But for, how sad is that? But for my neck to my shoulders, I'm relatively small. Same with for my top of the shoulder down to my waist, I'm relatively short. And that's just sad, but that's bad luck for me, right? But for the rest of us, I'm going to give you 3 different measurements: a small, a medium, and a large. And they're to suit the average measurement, yeah? And then we will be putting a single crochet edge over it to tighten it up a little bit. So yours will be a tiny little bit loose, not a lot, just a little bit. And then once we put our single crochet edge on, that will tighten up your neck edge a little bit. All right, I hope that made sense. All right, so what you're going to do now is grab your measuring tape, pop it, let me get a close up for you, right in the center, right in the center. Now, yours truly, like I said, is a tad shorter than most people. From my neck to my shoulders, I'm relatively tiny there, right? So I gave myself 18 centimeters. Well, it was actually just under 18 centimeters or 7 inches, right? For a small, yeah. For a medium neck, you're looking at 20 centimeters to 8 inches or 8 inches. And for the extra large or tall neck, you're looking at 23 centimeters or 9 inches. Okay, what I want you to do is find a spot to suit you. Now I'm going to pop mine on the, and I'll show you in a minute, 18 centimeters or 7 inches. So grab your stitch marker, any stitch marker you have, and I'll fix the measurement up later, the actual count across later. And then what I want you to do is count these stitches here, go across this way, right here, and count the same that way. So your stitches should be even from there to there. Right, let's just pretend, I'll grab my stitch marker. Let's pretend I counted them, all right? Okay, if you take that out, that will be your neck. So what I want you to do is do that, take that out, try it on, okay? If you try it on, it can fit around your neck, popping it, that's where your shoulders will be, that way, right? Try it on just that way for now. There are other ways you can wear your poncho, but just try it on that way for now. If you find that neck is falling off your shoulders, like if the top is falling off your shoulders, then you need to take it in a little bit more. So what I'm doing here is actually helping you to make your poncho to fit your neck. So what I want you to do is to do that, try it on, and meet me back here in a moment and get ready for what we're about to do to our poncho. Alrighty guys, what you should have now is your little gap there. What you need to do now is bring your work over to your very first little end of your work here. Now if you played your cards right, your stitches would be even from there all the way down to there, if you did your numbers right, okay? If you didn't, you better check your numbers, yeah? All right, make sure that you've tried your little top on and it fits, yeah? And what I want you to do is to grab a piece of thread, thread your needle, and what I did was I actually doubled it. I did more than doubled it, so it's far too big. Just get a piece of thread, double it, or maybe triple it, that's all right. It's not going to hurt to have more. And don't knot it, okay? So what we're going to do is start sewing from here all the way up to there. So making sure your count is correct here. Now if you want, you can flip it a little bit like that and work this way. But either way, it doesn't matter. It's all got to add up here. All right, so it doesn't matter what you do. All right, so what I want you to do here is pop your needle in that stitch of your stitch marker, in through to the other stitch right there. Take out your stitch marker, pulling your thread through, not all the way, just leave yourself a nice long tail because we're going to weave that tail in at the end, yeah? I want you to go back into that stitch again for a little bit of reassurance, you know, a little bit more strength. When you pull that needle through, don't pull your thread all the way. Pull it through a little bit and leave that little loop there. Grab your needle, pop it through the loop and then pull it through. And what that's going to do is give it a tiny little knot, just a little one, not a big one, and that'll secure it for you. Okay, don't stress about this area later. We're going to be crocheting over that. All right, so now your job is to pop your needle through. We're going over this way all the time, over. So you're going in the front, through the back, both loops, 2 loops on top and your little 1 loop on the bottom. And now you're just going through every stitch like that. Through the front, through to the back, making sure you're not splitting yarn here, yeah? It will be noticeable. And just pull it through. Through the front, into the back, and pull it through. Let me show you close up so you can see where the stitches are going into, or where the needle's going into. Right there, 2 on top, 1 on the bottom, and right to the opposite side. There. Yes? And pulling your work through. Now it is really too close, isn't it? All right, so I don't want you to sit here and watch me do this all the way through. So what your job to do now is to continue in this manner all the way across and get to your very last stitch. Now making sure, do you know what, get to the second last stitch. I'll show you where to put your stitch marker in a minute. All right, okay, making sure that each stitch marries up. So now what you're going to do is go in, over, over and over and over again. Get to your second last stitch right there, and I will meet you up and tell you what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, here I am at the end of the row. Now the bonus of tripling my thread is I have a lot left, so we can do the next side as well with the same thread. Alright, now I'm going to take that stitch marker out because I've actually split my thread there and I don't want to split it. I have 2 stitches left, and hopefully you do too. Don't stress if you've gone and done your work, that's okay. Do your second last stitch. I'm not doing anything special here. But on the last stitch, I don't want to pull this too tight, but I don't want to leave it loose either. And on the last stitch, you have your chain stitch there and a double crochet there. All right, so you've got to find the 2 loops in the top of that chain stitch. All right, and then 2 loops in the top of your double crochet. Pop your needle through just like normal. To reassure that so that it's nice and tight, you're going to go through it again. Remember what we did before, don't pull it all the way through, leave a little loop like that, and then pop your needle through that loop and tighten it up like so. All right, now you're going to need to weave that end in, but before we do anything, and maybe before we did that knot, we should have probably checked our work. So what I want you to do is turn it over and make sure, I mean, how gorgeous does that look? Nice and neat. Nothing is pulling. Make sure there's nothing split. That looks a tiny split there. Let's have a look. A nice close-up right there. No, it's not good. Make sure that you have not split your yarn. It will be noticeable. All right, so mine's fine. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to weave this end in. So what you need to do here is you can actually leave it if you like and use it for tassels later if you wanted to. I might actually leave it. Let's leave our ends. All right, let's leave it, see how they go after we put our row of single crochet on, which won't be that far off now, okay? But let's leave that end there. Grabbing your scissors, all right, grab your scissors and just leave a nice, in fact, I might leave a nice long tail. Now you're probably wondering, oh, are we doing tassels? Well, you can, okay? I'm going to give you both options and you can decide whether you want the tassels or you can decide whether you don't want the tassels. So you're going to have 2 options there, all right? So that's that side done. Perfect, wonderful, sweet, marvelous. Let's go to the opposite side. Yep, turn your work around, only so that you can start from inside. You don't have to. You could have started from that end as well. It doesn't matter. All right, so take out your stitch marker, or you can actually pop your needle in there first so you don't lose the stitch. Pop your needle in. Now take out your stitch marker, making sure I didn't split anything there. Yep, good. pull your tail through. There's your little tail. Make sure you leave a little tail for weaving in later. Oops, and then I just pulled a little bit. Go back into the stitch. Remember, like before, we went back in that stitch. Right? Remember, don't pull it through all the way, just a little bit. Pull that loop through and give it a tug. I might end up having to add more thread now, so I don't think it's going to make it across. Now, like before, all you're doing is going into the next stitch and the next. All right, so you actually know what you're doing here. Just continue this way. I'm going to have to get another thread. It doesn't look good. But continue like that until you get to your second last stitch again. Yep. And we will meet back here in a moment. Alrighty guys, here we are at the end of this side now. Alright. Finishing off that second last stitch and your second last on the opposite side, like so. Grab your chain stitch here. Remember, you need to have 2 loops on top, 1 on the bottom, and then grab the stitch right on the opposite side there. And it doesn't want to work for me. Here we go. There we go. Now we're under control. Make sure I haven't split any yarn. Pull it through once. Now we're going to go back into that stitch again. Remember what we do? We go halfway, or a little bit less than halfway, or more than halfway, and pop your needle through, giving it a bit of a tug and cutting your yarn, but cutting it so you're giving yourself a long tail. All right, this way if you decide to do tassels, it'll make life a little easier. So now what you have is, let me move some stuff out the way here, it's taking up a lot of space now, it's really big, is one little piece with a hole in the middle. All right, so what I want you to do with this piece is turn it the other way now. So you're going to turn it into the right side now, so that the right side is now facing you. And that's your right side, okay? And that is actually where your head, your neck edge will be. This is where it's optional, up to you. Everyone needs to put a single crochet row around it, and that'll just tighten it up a little. But it's optional whether you want to use the yellow, the white, or the grey. I'm going to use white for the neck edge. Again, not necessary. You can use yellow if you like, but yours truly is going to use the white. And look what's happened to my white. It's all folded up. It's a big mess, but don't tell the subscribers, they won't know. Okay. Now, if by any chance you did your neck edge and you're thinking, oh, it really is rather loose, you could, if you wanted to, drop a hook size. Oh, you could go to 4.5. I'm going to be using the 5 like normal. You could go to 4.5 or, oh no, I've lost my 4mm, but there you go. You can go 4.5 or a 4mm hook. But yours truly is going to be using the 5, which is the same hook we used to create our poncho. All right, so now that we've got our right sides facing, all I want you to do is find one little neck edge there. All right, I'm going to bring it up. Neck edge, shoulder edge, wherever the shoulder seam. Now this is called a shoulder seam, but it's also a neck edge. As I mentioned before, we're going to do a row of single crochet. Now this is your seam line right there that we just sewed up. And these 2 stitches here are the same stitch, the first stitch that we sewed into. Okay, so what we're going to do is skip that for a moment, go to the stitch right before it, pop your hook in, grabbing your tail end, pull the loop through, and you can pass it over if you like so. Chain 1. In the same stitch we're doing a single crochet, and a single crochet is popping your hook in the stitch, pull a loop through, and I'm crocheting over my tail, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. All right, you can pop that tail at the back now. We're going to work that in later. So what you have right here now, just give that little tail a tug. You have your seam line with your 2 stitches. We're going to be crocheting those 2 stitches together as one. We're doing a single crochet again, but we're doing them together as one. So we're popping our hook into the stitch, pull a loop through, hold it there. Jump over your stitching and into that next stitch, in the stitch, pull a loop through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook. So you have put 2 of those single crochets together. Don't worry about this lemon tail, or yellow, whatever you want to call it. We're going to weave that in so that this does not open up. Then you're just going to single crochet all the way in every stitch. Again, if you wanted to use a smaller hook, you could, but I'm going to stick with a 5, and probably best bid to stick with a 5. If you did your measurements right, you shouldn't have a problem, yeah? So what I want you to do now, so you're not watching me do it, single crochet all the way until you get to, that's the stitch of your work right there. You want the stitch right before it, okay? So what I want you to do is single crochet this side only, get to that stitch marker, and I will meet you there in a moment. Alrighty guys, here we are at the end of this row. Well, it's not a row, it's only a side, really, if you think about it. So we've got that second last stitch before the center. So what you're going to do is pop, take out the stitch marker for starters. I'm struggling to work in there. All right, so pop your single crochet in that stitch there. Oops, and I'm going to move my piece around, sorry guys. Now where you should be is flat bang right in your center there. So you should have your seam line there. What you want to do is pop your hook in the space, give it a nice tight tug, jump over your seam line straight into that second stitch or the first stitch on the opposite side, give it a tug and do your normal single crochet through the 3 loops, yeah? Then you are just going to single crochet all the way across. Now yours truly did not put a stitch marker in that last single crochet, but I'm not particularly worried about it, and I'll tell you why. Because, well, it depends on whether you use the yellow or the white, but we use the white, so the white will be easy to find, that stitch right there. But if you used yellow, go back to that stitch and just pop a stitch marker right in the top 2 loops of that stitch right there. All right, your job, continue along this side seam in your single crochets, get to right there, and I shall meet you there in a moment. Alrighty guys, here we are at the end of this row. Now I'm in that second last stitch. I've got 1 last stitch there and then a slip stitch to join. So what I'm going to do is pop my single crochet in that last stitch there, and we're going to slip stitch to join. Now I think I've split my stitch, so I'm going to take that stitch marker out. All right, and all you're doing is slipping into that stitch there, pull a loop through and pull it through to the loop you are in. Now what you're going to do to reassure this, you're just going to chain 1, put another single crochet on top of the one that you're in, like that. Pop your stitch marker in there, and then in that very next stitch, which was the 2 you did together, remember, you join these 2 sections together. You're going to single crochet in it, single into your very next stitch, and guess what, single into the next, and you guessed it, single into the next, and so on all the way through your work. I'm really sorry guys that my work keeps falling off the table because it's so heavy, but what I want you to do is to continue in that manner, single crochet all the way around your work, get back to this second last stitch right here and wait for me there. However, when you get here, see that there's your single. Let me get a close up for you. Let me put some stitch markers in. That's your seam line stitch, which is right there. This is just going to help you a little bit. So when you get here, there's your single crochet. There's your single crochet when you single crochet these 2 rows together. There's your next single crochet and your next. So all you're doing is going in every single crochet all the way across, even in that little one right there. All right, so that's what you're looking at. Yeah, so single crochet all the way across. Get right to the very, very first stitch that we did, and I will meet you there in a moment. Alrighty guys, here I am at the end of the row, the actual row. I've gone past that middle section and joined right to this side now. We're going to pop a single crochet in that last stitch, and you are actually already in, let's give that a tug, you're already in that stitch there. Alright, so your job is to just, oh, it's really tight, my stitch, slip stitch into the stitch with your stitch marker in it. Hello, and mine's really tight. Don't you love it? Don't you love it? It's in every tutorial, there's always one. Pull the loop through and pull it through to the loop you are in. Pull up your loop, check your work before doing this part, and that's giving it a cut. Now I've got hair everywhere because I tried it on, as you do. You can try yours on if you like. If you find, believe it or not, you can actually change this pattern to suit. So if you find that that is too tight, you can actually take that last row undone and leave it the other way. But the reason I do this row is so this can be a little bit more stronger. You know, I like it stronger. What I want you to do though, however, is inside your work, you will have this yellow or lemon tail or whatever you want to call it, okay? That really needs to be weaved in because it can actually come undone. Like it can really come undone. Even though we did that tiny little knot, it can come undone, all right? Now, the best way to weave this tail in is to not weave it into your yellow, actually weave it into the side of your white. Now, this white you can actually weave in that way, and your yellow, I would weave it in through this way and just split some stitches at the back right there, making sure you can't see the needle from the front. Pop that in there like so, because this can come undone in the wash, okay? Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Now keep splitting all the way across your yellow and through some white, across to your yellow and into some white. Just check the needle in the front. Can you see it? No, that means you're doing well. All right, so give it a tug. Once you reach, I don't know, an area where it's, you know, a few centimeters, a couple of inches across, like that. I can see the needle through that one, so let's take that undone a little bit. Once you get to a certain area, all you're doing is going back the way you came in, but just in a different section. So it's still the same area. I'm going to do it so you can see it. And you're going into just some different stitches. They're still the same stitches, but they're different sections of the stitches. Just going to check that needle. Can't see it. Good-o. And weave it right through. Back the other way. Let's have a look at that. So close. Okay. All right. Whoops. My needle came out. But so you go through one way, sew it back the other way, and you now officially have strength. That is not going to come undone in the wash. You need to do the same with the opposite side. All right. So I can't get that out anymore. That's what you should have, like that. All right. At the end of the tutorial, I'll show you how you can wear your top or your poncho both ways. All right. In the meantime, we're going to get started on the edges. Too exciting. To work on our side edges now, that's the neck edge we worked on. We're still on the right side of our work. All right. So all I want you to do is just turn your work this way. That's where your neck edge is, yeah? And the base of your work, or the base of your poncho, is here. Now you've got your two pieces together. You're going to pop that bottom one down, and you're going to work right here. Okay? There. And what we're going to do, we're going to pop our hook, and this is a little tricky, this part, all right? And the way we work is we're going to pop these tails under while we're working. Okay, But for now, just focus on what we've got here. Remember, we have our chain 1, 2, and the 3. Yeah. So what we're going to do is pop our hook in the base chain. And what I want you to do, find 2 stitches on top and 1 on the bottom. Doesn't matter how you do it. Grab the yarn you use to create your neck edge with. I use the white. Grab that, pop it over your hook, pull it through, and just grab your little tail forward. We're going to lock it into place and crochet over that a little bit. Chain 1. Actually, no, we're not. What am I saying? If you're going to do tassels with me, make that tail long. Yeah? Leave it there. We're going to chain 1. Nice tight chain. In that same stitch, you're going to do a single crochet. All right. In every double crochet row, you need 2 single crochets. That's your first one. And your second one can go in any stitch you find that has 2 loops on top and 1 on the bottom. Don't go into the space or you're going to have big gaps. It must be the actual stitch. All right, so do a single crochet into that next chain right there. Yeah. Now this is your very next row. You have to find a way to do 2 single crochets here. 1 can go into that group of stitches there, single crochet 1, and then 1 can go into that really tight work right there. Excuse me, you can do it, Mary. Here we go. And do your single crochet. All right. Oh, I think I split the yarn. And I did. Hello. Here we go. That's better. And there's your single crochet. 1 on the bottom, 2 loops on the top. And there you go. It's a little tricky. But if you were to pop your single crochet in that stitch, you're going to have a massive gap. And you don't want that. Yeah. So now we have to find a way to put 2 single crochets in these chains. Now this row's tricky because they're chains. All right. So it's going to be fairly tight. For anything like mine, it's going to be even tighter. Single crochet in the first stitch. Oh, it's not too bad. And then single in your next. Right there. When you come to these tails, you still need to do 1 more single crochet in that section. No, we've done 2 there, haven't we? Yeah. You need to do 2 single crochets here. When you come to the tail, hold it at the back. Do your single crochet. Crochet over that tail like so. Drop it, and there's your single crochet. Or at least make sure your tails are at the back of your work while we crochet. Okay, so single into the next stitch fairly tight here, but not too as tight, not as tight as my usual stitches, which is good. So that's that 1, 2, 3, 4 rows done. So you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 single crochets across. So I hope I'm making sense. It's 2 single crochets in every row. There's the white. We're going to jump into the white stitch right there. 2 loops on top and 1 on the bottom if you can get in there without splitting any yarn. Oh, it's very tight for me. Oh dear. Really tight. Okay, now I'm going to pass that tail at the back. Single crochet right there, 1, and single crochet into the next white, and then we're jumping into the grey. All right, now this can be a little tricky, but to be honest with you, for me, I'm not struggling. Okay, and again, if you find it easier to pop it in there for that single crochet, you can, and then in your next row into the chains, 1 and 2. All right. If you accidentally miss 1 stitch, it may not be that noticeable. All right. So your job, I don't want you to sit here and watch me, just going to take forever. Watch me do that. So do that single crochet row all the way until you get to, now I want you to get to the center of your work, and this is where our shoulder part was that we sewed up before, and let's just right there. You're going to find that your work looks a little like that there. True, okay? That is normal, all right? We are going to work in that section there, so don't stress. When you get to this row here, which is your last double crochet row, you'll have a single crochet there. Let's get another stitch marker. And a single crochet there. All right. Did I lock them in place? I did. There. Get to that stitch marker just before that row and just wait for me there. So all you're doing is half a side. Well, no, I'm sorry. Half a poncho on one side, yeah? So you're doing all of your grey, your whites, your yellows. Get to the stitch marker right there, and I will meet you up in a moment. Alrighty guys, let's get a nice close-up. What I have here is my last row. This is my second last row, I should say, of double crochets, and then that's my third. I'm sorry, let's try that again. That's my second last row, and that's my last row, and in here is where we had our sewing together. So what I'm going to do, oh, it keeps falling off the table for me, sorry guys. I'm going to be putting my single crochet in that second last row, like so, and then right here is my next 2 single crochets, right? Remember, we put our stitch markers in there to remind us that that's our next 2 single crochets. So take these 2 stitch markers out for now, all right? Just popping your yellow tail at the back, or lemon, whatever colour you want to call it. Single crochet in your first, chain there, 1, single in that second one. Now right here is where our join is. You're going to do the 2 together like we did up the top where the neck edge is. So you're going to go into the stitch where we sewed our little thread in, pull up a loop, leave it there, jump straight into the same stitch on the opposite side. Oh, which one is it? It's right. I have to find it now. All right, it's right there. Pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Yeah. And now you need to do the 2 single crochets in here. Yeah. So you need to find the stitch here somewhere. 1. Without splitting anything, and 1 into your next stitch right next to it. Then you're jumping straight into that very next row with your 2 single crochets. 1, and that's fairly tight, but it's there. 2. Now let me show you what you've done. All right, so what you've done is that. All right, you've done your single crochets across. You've done your normal single crochets here, and you've done your 2 single crochet. Oh, I'm out of frame. Sorry, guys. You've done your single crochets across. You've done your 2 single, and then you did your 2 together, and then you did your 2 single there. And what that's given you is that look right there, like that. All right. So now, easy part is, guess what you need to do? Single crochet all the way across. 2. There. All right, so what we're going to do here, and let me get a close-up for you. We are going to pop it in that, let's see, pop it there for now, all right? So what you do when you get down here, you'll be doing your 1 and your 2 single crochets in that stitch there, and then you'll have 2 here to do, okay? So let's leave that for now, all right, there. And what I want you to do is continue along your edge, and then meet me back here when we get to this section right here. We'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, here we are at the end of this section here. Now this is a real tricky section. Now the reason is because we have our last row to do here with 2 single crochets in those stitches. Then we kind of have our chain row as well. So take out your stitch marker. You should have done your second last row there. And now we're ready to go in the last row. It is more trickier than the first row that we did on the opposite side. So let's just pop a single crochet in your stitch anywhere there. All right, now here you've got that little gappy kind of look. you want to try and close it up without it looking too gappy. Try and get into the stitch with a couple of loops. It's a bit tricky because I don't know about you, but I've pulled mine really tight. But there's mine right there. And I crocheted kind of over the tail as well. So that's that. All I want you to do is chain one or pulling up a loop. Give your work a cut, making sure your work's correct first, of course. And then just pull that tail tug. You have done one side. Guess what, guys? You need to repeat the same for the opposite side. I don't think I need to show you how to do this. Just go back to that time right there that's up on the screen, and that'll start straight from here. Do that whole row exactly where that time says to go. Don't forget to do your little section in here, right? And then come to that little section again where we just finished off. And I will meet everyone back here once you're done, and we will talk about tassels. Alrighty guys, so here we are at the end of this row. I'm going to do this section here again before we do the tassels. So that's our second last row. We've got our last row here. We need to put 2 single crochets in. Now it was that tricky section. So one in there, like so, and one in here. But you might like to make sure you go through all loops. So there's 2 loops on top. Grab your tail, pull it at the back, and do your single crochet. Pull up a loop, and as you can see, yours truly has been playing with tassels. Give it a cut and leave that nice and long. Now I found, just a quick tip for everyone, I was going to actually do the tassels with the thread from underneath, and I'll show you that also, but that didn't come out well for me. What it did was, and I'll show you so you can see, it left a lot of short ends. I don't know if I can find some now for you, because some of them are there, right there, left a lot of short ends, all right, which would mean that I would have to cut my tassels that short, and I don't want to. So I'm actually going to leave those, or I'm going to actually weave them in. This one here I didn't even do anything with, because I wanted to show you how short that end would be. If I pulled it through, it would be even shorter. Now let's talk about distances. Yours truly, on this side, I went to every second stitch. I did one, skipped one, skipped one. All right. That to me, I found was way too much for the amount of threads I have here. It was way too much. So if you wanted to skip 2 and do it every third one, and then you might even see that because I've got some tight stitching in there, it looks like it's every stitch. So I would suggest skipping every third stitch. I've even missed one there for starters, right? Skipping every third stitch and doing it in every third one or fourth one. If you wanted to do it in every second one or every first one, I would use less threads, maybe only 2, all right? Because this is like, when you see it right there, there's the picture right there. You have seen it anyway in the promo, but when you see it, you'll realise it's a lot of tassels. And if you like a lot of tassels, by all means do that. Okay, now let's talk measurements of tassels. All right, now yours truly, I used a ruler and I used a measuring tape, and I'll tell you why. I used the measuring tape to measure my tassels. Now this is not a good one because I accidentally cut that too short, and I know I did. All right, so I measured from the top of that one right down to the bottom, and it was really long. It kind of measured about 20 centimeters, and let me get a close up. It was really too long. 20 centimeters. I'm sorry, let's try that again. 51 centimeters and 20 inches, right? Well, it depends on how long you want your tassels. You can leave them that way and then just cut them. Just remember, if you leave them long and you cut them way over to here or something like that, you're losing all that thread. Now, making these tassels, I used up so much thread and I ran out of the grey. So I'm kind of using a different dye lot for the tassels. It's not noticeable, which is good. I would say between 46 centimeters and 51, or 18 inches and 20, roughly, right? Then I used the ruler, and you wouldn't believe why. I couldn't be bothered measuring it. So I just got the ruler, literally. I'm just going to do, I might have to redo it. And I went like this, and this is no joke. I just sat there, and I actually had a pair of long scissors. Now I've got to be careful because that just fell off the table. Try and straighten them out as best you can. Yeah. And then I just went like that. Seriously, that is all I did. I don't want to do it on this board because it's going to scratch my board. But that is all I did with my ruler. You don't have to do that. There are many ways you can do your tassels, yeah? But anyway, I just want to show you quickly how to do the tassels. From there to there, I am going to put in every second stitch 3 tassels. 2 whites and a grey. 2 whites and a grey, all the way through. From there to there, so from that yellow to that yellow, I'm going to be doing exactly the same. 3 tassels, 2 whites and a yellow. 2 whites and a yellow in every second stitch. And then from here to the other side, I'm going to do exactly the same. What's the right side and the wrong side, I hear you ask? Well, this is the right side of the work that we've been working on. We're still working on it. That's not where it is. Hello. This is our right side of the work. This is where we did our single crochet row just now. Your hook goes in the wrong side of your work. Okay, and then you pull your tassels through. So always remember that your hook goes in the wrong side. So let's grab a couple of tassels and do that. When you find out the length of the tassel that you want, just cut yourself, I don't know, you need 2 for the whites and 1 for the grey. So just cut yourself 20 or 30 at a time, whatever. I'm just going to put it anywhere for now. Through the back. That's really too close, isn't it? Grab the tassels and try and even it out as best you can. Right, mine they're a disaster. They're all over the place. Right, I'm going to fix mine up later. Pull them through like so. And there's your loop, yeah? Pop your fingers in there, grab those tails, and then just give them a tug. And that's your first tassel. Now what you want to make sure is your tassel looks like that on the right side of your work. And on the wrong side, it's kind of got this little split line in between. Okay, that's how you know that you've done it right. So always take your hook from the back and through to the front, okay? Well, on the back and through, back through to the back. You know what I mean? Put your hook through the back. All right, that's that. Now, let's talk about how I did the tassels real quickly. So what I did was I just grabbed one piece. I measured it with the, the measuring tape. And then I just popped it up against this guy right here and went like that. Got to the bottom and gave it a cut. This is why mine are all out of shape. And then I took that yellow and pulled the rest like that and gave that one a cut. All right, so that's what you do. You just keep cutting until you find, I don't know, you've got 20, 30, 50, 40, I don't know how many tassels you want to use. Put them all aside like I've done here. Have a look at that. Now they fell before I came on air. All of them, the yellow, the whites and the grey. These are already ready to go for the second side. Now you know I've already done one side and I've got to do this side here as well. All right, so now you know what you're doing, guys. You don't need to sit here and watch me do this. You can just head off on your own and do your, what a mess. I'm going to see if I can fold it over for you and do your tassels. All you need to remember, guys, is 2 whites and whatever colour you used, 2 whites and 1 lemon, or 2 whites and 1 grey. All right, so there you go, guys. Don't forget, you need to trim your tassels, you need to weave in all your ends, and we will see each other on our lives at Saturday 10 a.m. Melbourne, Australia time, and also we have lives on Wednesday at 4 p.m. Melbourne, Australia time. All right. Yay. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share, and do all the wonderful things that you guys, well, pretty much already do for me. I will see everyone on our lives. Enjoy your poncho and ciao for now.